I've wanted to go to Comic-Con for most of my life, and I am leaving pretty disappointed.
That's it. That's my intro.
Hi, I'm Amanda, watching Swell Entertainment, and today we are talking about Comic-Con, LA Comic-Con to be specific. And the title of this video is probably going to be, do we even need LA Comic-Con, or something like that? Because I don't think you know if you need LA Comic-Con. San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con are considered like the Comic-Con, specifically San Diego Comic-Con. Why didn't you go to those, Amanda? Well, San Diego Comic-Con I did have the opportunity to go to this year for at least a few days, and I decided against it because of the fact that the actors' strike had just begun. And I didn't think it was fair for me to do a video on them when all of that was coming, and I wasn't going to get like the traditional style of Comic-Con for the first year of a review, basically. If I had previously done a review on Comic-Con, then I probably would have done a second one because then I could compare the two. But as a starting point, I didn't think that was a fair starting point, so I didn't go to San Diego. New York, I was traveling and doing something else at the same time because at the end of the day, I'm just one person. LA, I am in LA. It made the most sense. I was like, okay, this is good. And my friends who have done other Comic-Cons were like, this is a good starting Comic-Con for you. But first, let me tell you about the sponsor for today's video, Aura. That's right, Aura's back. And let me tell you, I needed them this time, okay? Again, I've talked about how they helped me when I got hacked back when my Twitter was hacked and I made sure nothing else had been leaked. I have been getting a lot of spam calls to my work phone. Now, this was weird because next to no one has this number, and I could not understand how these robocallers were getting my number. Lo and behold, some data brokers got a hold of it, probably through my cell phone service provider or something. Data brokers are making a fortune profiting off of your personal information, from your full legal name to your address to your work phone number. Aura can identify data brokers selling your information and submit automatic opt-out requests on your behalf, because data brokers have to stop using your information and selling it if you ask them to stop. However, they make it incredibly difficult to do so, and that is where Aura comes in to help. Aura is super easy to set up, and you don't have to download several apps to get a ton of different benefits. They have things like parental controls, antivirus protection, VPNs, password management, identity theft insurance, and more at one affordable price. Let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online so that you can focus on other things. You can go to aura.com/swell to start your 2-week free trial, or you can click the link in my description box or scan the QR code that's been on screen. Again, that's aura.com/swell, and thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video. I wasn't lying in the opening. I have always wanted to go to Comic-Con before this YouTube channel even existed. And it was either something I could never afford or something that I could never actually end up getting tickets to. It's not super easy to get tickets to San Diego Comic-Con. LA Comic-Con, it was incredibly easy. So easy, it was almost insulting how easy it was. And I think tickets were still available day of. I paid for VIP. Here's my badge. Okay. Now, my understanding of what this got me was that it got me in an hour early each day. It got me a separate entrance. I could use either of the entrances. It got this shipped to me. The problem is that I did an emergency move and I forgot. So this got shipped to the old address and never got rerouted. So day of Comic-Con, the first day, starts at 4 p.m. on the Friday. And that bugged me for a couple of reasons. One, it's a weird start time in my opinion. Two, you sold Friday only tickets. This year for me, I got early access, so it was cheaper than this, but VIP was $289 this year. There was something called VVIP. I didn't see that. I don't know who had that. That was $499, and then the 3-day was $105. You could buy individual day tickets. So Friday was $40, Saturday was $60, Sunday was $50. Saturday and Sunday were both full days. So to have Friday be $40 when it starts at 4 p.m. and ends around 8-ish, I want to say, I don't think that's a fair discount. I think it should be $25, which you'll never do. But I think that if you're going to have it only be a couple of hours, that Friday ticket should be borderline free. And for next year, they're making it $34. I still think that's too much goddamn money. But I went that day and I went and got this. I was able to go and pick this up in the main hall. Friday, this was supposed to get me in at 3:30. 3:30. I was supposed to get in early. And then 3:31 rolls around and they don't let us in. So I was with my friends and they had a friend who was tabling as a cosplay creator and they had extra exhibitor badges. So they were like, oh yeah, come on in, just come walk through. So use the exhibitor badge to get in. And it became very clear very quickly that a lot of people were not set up at their booths. They did seemingly let people in around 4, but As far as I could tell, it was not VIP that got let in before 4. Everyone that I saw had an exhibitor badge. No one could really tell me because I talked to a couple of different tables that like recognized me. I was like, do you know why they didn't let us in right at 3:30? And they were like, oh no, I have no idea. No announcement was made, that type of thing, which is what's happened at previous events as well. And it just seems like they just didn't let people in. If I pay for early access should be granted, especially when that's one of the selling points. I heard a lot of tea from a lot of vendors at this thing. A lot of people recognized me, or I'd seen them at other events and I was like, oh, I recognize you from this event, that type of thing. And that kind of got the ball rolling. I was like, oh, how's the con been for you so far? It seems like setup for all the vendors was a bit of a nightmare, okay? So they had them Thursday, mostly, wait about 45-ish minutes in downtown LA in order to get into the parking garage to park for a certain allotted amount of time for setup. And then they had to move their cars. So like unload, leave your stuff, move your car. And that was also apparently on Friday as well for setup, which I don't think anyone used that underground lot to my knowledge, which was the complaint that I heard from these vendors. It was like, well, why didn't they just let us park there? No one's parked there. Why can't I park there? You know, so, which, valid question.
So on one hand, I get booths not being open yet because, you know, we're 30 minutes early technically, but like the VIP hours are happening. And there are some people that are still setting up. Like, I don't know if this hall wasn't open yesterday because I couldn't make it over here. It looked like it was open. But I get why some people don't want to have their stuff out overnight. We saw this during Anime Expo where people got stuff stolen.
I heard a lot of complaints from a lot of artists that they were not given their table number before, or they were given it like the day of or something like that. So then they go and they're like, hey, where's my table number? No, we don't have your table number. No idea. Look it up on the app, but the app doesn't actually have the table numbers for a lot of people. So I talked to one artist who had just literally walked up and down the aisles until they found their name on their spot to get their table. So this is not the artist alley. The artist alley, they're smaller tables, so they're cheaper. I was told a 10 by 10 booth at LA Comic Con was about $10,000. A 40 by 10 would then be $40,000. So imagine you're an exhibitor, you have a $40,000 spot that you've paid for, and you walk in and someone else is in your spot. Has already set up all their stuff. They're like, well, we just set everything up. We don't want to move. So then you move, and now that's moved everything else. Because basically what it seems to have happened is that they double booked a couple of spots. Basically, I had been told that like, oh yeah, no, this year it's been very nonsensical as far as like the communication goes for the exhibitors. Most of the complaints I heard were from exhibitors. A couple of people that I've spoken to that has been to quite a few Comic-Cons were just like, yeah, nothing crazy's happened. Like previous years or something like that. It's like, yeah, it's pretty well done this year. Okay, that's what I've been told.
I thought it was weird that I was seeing a few empty booths, and then I just talked to one booth who was going to move to another booth because it was a better spot for them. And they were like, yeah, something weird is going on because someone had a quarter booth, which is like $2,500, $3,500, and they're not here. So there's something weird happening, absolutely. Not sure what's weird, but like he said fuckery afoot. I said shenanigans afoot.
And there was a lot of empty booths. Now, this happens at conventions, okay? But it's weird to see the empty booth and then see someone's name on it, okay? Someone bought this booth. And talking to more vendors, it's seemingly what had happened is that it was quite a few of the quarter booths, so about like $2,500. So who knows what it was, okay? But it seemed like there was a couple of people that paid for booths and then didn't show up to vend.
All I'm saying is that the Coast Guards aren't here and the Navy's not here. Listen, I'm not down for any of it right now, but the Army's here. You know, they're showing up. Where are these guys? What if I wanted to hang from the bar?
Not have a guarantee either.
Slackers.
I was shocked by the lack of major companies out of something like this. Now, obviously, Comic-Con, lots of comics. That's fine. I don't care about that. I don't care about the masses of graphic novels and things like that. But you would think with the nature of Comic-Con and how all-encompassing for pop culture that it has become, that there would be more variety of the boost from like companies. I saw a Neopets one. I saw Coca-Cola. I saw T-Mobile. I saw Verizon. It just seemed like a very weird lack of people there. And then the lineup was not bad, but it was just kind of small, I guess you could say. Like a lot of voice actors, normal. Couple of big names, couple of current names for like current shows and things like that. I did talk to a viewer works in video game development, and he was like, yeah, I was excited this year because last year they had a bunch of panels and like game development and devs talking and all this stuff. And this year there's none of that. They didn't do any of those types of panels. And so that was a complaint that I heard from, not that same complaint, but complaints as far as like the variety of the panels goes, where it's like, I get it, you know, things are going to change year to year, but it's like at a certain point when you have so much variety, you have nothing, you know, like there's no substance to anything. And the complaint that I heard from my friend who has been to a couple comic-cons as well, dresses up constantly and all this stuff for these things. She said, yeah, it sucks because like New York Comic-Con and San Diego Comic-Con, things get announced. Nothing gets announced here. Basically in that like there's a trailer drop, there's a new project announced, things like that. It's kind of partly lacking from LA Comic-Con, it seems, at least in its current form. And that's why I say like, do we actually need LA Comic-Con? Because the other thing that I heard from a lot of vendors that recognize my content and were like, oh yeah, like let's talk about these things. The phrase that gets thrown around a lot is that LA Comic-Con doesn't really have an identity. It's a bit of an identity crisis. Yeah, what is kind of the purpose of LA Comic-Con? You can't really say, oh, we want a West Coast Comic-Con. You have San Diego Comic-Con. San Diego is 2 hours away. It's not far enough away where it's like, it really justifies having an LA Comic-Con, if that makes sense. I tried to go to a couple of panels, but there was really no panels where I was like, I really want to hear about this conversation. I really want to watch this. I want to see this. I stood and watched a couple. I watched the actresses from The Boys do their panel on the main stage. I watched the SpongeBob panel on the main stage as well. Nothing too interesting to me, I guess. Meet and greets were popular. Obviously, I don't really do meet and greets personally. Some voice actors were at their tables constantly. Other people you had to go pay to get photos with them, things like that. The crowds some days were pretty busy, but nothing too crazy. Even like as far as like these conventions go, like this is very tame. To be honest with you, if you wanted to get the Anime Expo experience just from like the expo hall floor, not too far off, frankly. There was a lot of artists that I typically see in the artist alley at other events. I saw them here. A bunch of them were also at Anime Expo. Quite a few people that were at DragCon as well were at Anime Expo that were here, you know? So for me, I was more like, God, I go to too many events, but then also the fact that I'm like clocking a lot of the same vendors at other events here, it's like, I really didn't buy anything at LA Comic-Con except for the thing that I'm going to talk about how I may have gotten scammed. It's a starter event to ease yourself into the Comic-Con brand, if you will. This is probably a good starting point for you because it still gets busy. People dress up, people do cosplay, people do, you know, meet and greets and panels and things like that. But it's nothing too overwhelming. Mid is just kind of the word, I guess, to associate with this. It's going to continue to exist because I'm sure it makes them money. But it's just like, you don't want to give a little oomph, you know? Like, I feel like I'm trying to think of like how we could really make this a little more culturally relevant. Because like the amount of people that I spoke to in LA who live downtown, who do not know that LA Comic-Con is a thing, let alone that it was happening this weekend, is never a good sign. I've talked about this with many other events. It's never a good sign that like people in the area of an event, especially for people that live in the vicinity of a convention center, okay? They don't know what the event is or that one's even happening. Not a good sign, typically. You don't want it to be disruptive, but you don't want it to be unknown.
I pretty much walked most of this hall now. There's a chunk on the end that I haven't gotten to yet, but I'll come back. Other than that, I'm probably going to go to the other hall before it opens to GA. Just to get in a little bit of extra time, walk around, familiarize myself a little bit more before it gets crazy. I don't know how crazy this is going to. Everyone tells me it's not that crazy. So we're going to see.
Currently, obviously, it's in December. They're moving it to October, which will be good, I think, because of it being a little lighter later, especially if we're going to keep the 4 p.m. time, which I still think is stupid. Putting it a little earlier on the calendar will be good because, and I talked to a vendor who has been at pretty much all Comic-Cons, LA Comic-Con specifically. He told me, he's like, yeah, they used to have it in October, and that's good because then it's kind of like a little Halloween party for all of us. It's very spooky and things like that. And I heard complaints from other people where it's like, but that's when all the horror conventions are, so why would they come here? So I think there's a give and take to it, but I don't think November is a good month, and I don't think December is a good month for it. So I think October just makes the most sense because you don't want it to be in January because a lot of people are like trying not to spend money in January. A lot was also the criticism that I heard from a lot of Artist Alley people. A lot of artists that I've seen at other events that clean up at other events, that they specifically tell me like, oh yeah, this event I made 10K. At this event, I barely made my table back. And there's kind of a lot of speculation for it. It's like at this event, obviously the artists are competing with the Dealer's Den and all of the comics and all of the other big booths that are set up. This setup is also very similar to DragCon in that everything is all on one floor versus say Anime Expo where the Artist Alley and all of that is in the annex down below. And that's kind of like a separate zone. So like if you're going there because you want to look at art and you want to spend money on art and all this stuff. Here it's like, what am I going to find? I don't know. Artist Alley? Nothing that really interests me. Going to go to this side of the expo hall and buy dice. I don't know. Some people were like, I've been doing fine, but like nothing crazy. And other people, they were between that and then the setup issues, they were like, yeah, they're trying to get us to rebook for next year and I'm not coming back. I heard several artists tell me that they will not be coming back to LA Comic-Con next year, which is not good, but it's like that's not really something that, like people not wanting to buy something is obviously not something the convention itself can fix, but like all the other issues, those are things that can be fixed by LA Comic-Con, including, you know, the setup situation and all of that, like the amount of artists and vendors where it's like, yeah, typically you get a packet or something, like you get a full piece of information about all the stuff that you need to know before going and tabling it at an event. And they just were talking about how they didn't get that here. Now, again, my experiences are only limited to those that I spoke to, obviously, and, you know, the information they gave me. But when you're hearing the same information from multiple people, it's probably that's the consistency throughout the entirety of the event.
And I am an adult, but I will also take any opportunity you have to go into a bouncy castle all day morning and Falcon Hunt. Anyways, this is what I'm doing right now.
My friends are judging me.
But they're dressed as
Spider-Gwen and Aladdin, so no one's allowed to judge me this weekend. Oh yeah, should we talk about how I got scammed? Okay, so long story short, I always try and buy something at events, okay, especially if an event that I'm not particularly a part of that subgenre, that subculture, because I'm an interloper and I think that's the smart thing to do, at least, you know, patron an artist or a small business or what have you at an event. However, I am in the Comic-Con subculture. I am a massive goober and a nerd and a pop culture nerd specifically. So I am part of the subculture. So typically this isn't a big deal for me to do this, but nothing really caught my eye. And like I said, I recognized a lot of these artists from other events I've been to. So if there's something that I liked, I already bought it. And so my friend Anarchy was there with me and we want to go to Japan next year. And so the way that we kind of controlled our typical impulse buying, because we're both enablers for each other. If we see something we're like, get it. Okay, but this time around, we were like, think of Japan, okay? Because we're going to spend too much money in Japan and too much going to Japan. So it was like, think of Japan, or being responsible, if you will, okay? So that's kind of how we kind of stopped each other from just buying things that we didn't really want. If either of us really wanted something, we both got it, okay? But there was nothing that I really, really wanted until we were walking through the South Hall, which a bunch of people didn't really realize was a thing because everyone went in through the West Hall. No, the South Hall, the West Hall was the one that a lot of people were confused by. One of the halls that was not the main hall, okay, that was the one that people were confused by and couldn't find for a while. That's where a lot of the armed forces were and all of that. Aside from the Beverly Hills Police Department, they were in the main expo hall. And one of them was swinging around a lightsaber at one point, and I was like, is that standard issue? You guys carrying those around now? But we're walking around, and obviously mystery boxes are very common at these events. And I'm usually very good about not buying a mystery box. But you see, we're walking through the hall, we're just kind of looking around. They had mystery boxes at this one booth and then bags all over. They had different little drawings all over them. And one of them said 18 plus, and it had their little character that they had pretty much everywhere. It's like a square character with like ooga eyes. Okay, so like giant eyeballs that looked vaguely sus, okay? Like, that's what it looked like. And I was like, oh, that's funny. So I walk up and I was like, hi, how much is the 18 and up mystery bag? $20. And then he starts explaining to me that in each of the mystery bags, there are 2 items, a figurine or a plushie related to something that they sell in the booth or whatever, an anime affiliated with their booth. And then usually another item that's a smaller item, that's a keychain or a sticker or something like that, that is possibly, but also possibly not related to the big figurine. I was like, okay. I pull out 20. I was like, oh, it's $20. I had 2 10s. He's like, actually, it's 22 after tax. It's like, okay, no big deal. You got change for 30. Sure. Gave him the money. As he's handing me my change, he says, oh, and that one's going to have 1 item in it. And I was like, all right. So I'm grabbing the one that I wanted, the one that got me to come up here anyways, the one that has the 18 and up and the ooga eyes on it. Okay. That's what I wanted. And he said, oh no, wait, and hands me a bag from behind. And I was like, I can't have this one. And he said, no, we saved the drawings. The drawings are Sharpie on printer paper. And it's a very simple drawing. You could do another one. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Like, no big deal, thinking it's fine. I'm like, oh, maybe this one is empty. Maybe that's what it is. This is the bag. So I open it, and Chris and Anarchy are there with me. Chris is Anarchy's boyfriend, another friend. I look in, and I see what it is, and I'm like, I think I should ask for my money back. And I just started laughing, because I fully thought I was going to get a waifu figurine, okay? I was so excited for a waifu figurine, okay? That's what I'm thinking, 18 and up, okay? Something cute and vaguely offensive, maybe. I don't know, okay? A little waifu with like massive bitties. Take old bitties, if you will, okay? That's what I'm thinking I'm gonna get. So I look in the bag. William, you may have to blur this, but I don't think you will. I'm more offended because this is not worth $20. It's definitely not worth $22. This is bullshit. Anyways, that's how I thought about asking for a refund. I like literally got 5 feet away from the booth and I was like, should I be the person that asked for a refund at Comic-Con? Do I be that asshole and ask for a refund? Because I feel taken advantage of. I feel taken for a ride, really. It was funny. I laughed and I continue to laugh, but also I feel like I got screwed over. I want my money back. So that's why I'm making a whole segment about this so that I will make $20 off this video. I'll make more than $20, but I'll at least make $20 back and I will feel better. It was not worth it. And that's why I should have asked myself when I saw that 18 and up bag, I should have said, think of Japan. And this is what happens when you don't think of Japan. You get screwed over by a plush penis.
They gave me extra. I don't know if that means that some of them are bad, but I don't know what happened.
Would I go again? Yes, because I had fun. I met a lot of cool people. I met a lot of you guys. You guys were always very sweet at events like this. I only had one weird interaction that made me uncomfortable, but it was fine. I changed my mind. I don't think I would go to LA Comic-Con again, mainly because of the glowing reviews that my friends have told me about San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con specifically. Because to leave this event and just kind of feel meh about it, I don't know. In my free time, would I go again? Probably not. For a review, if something insane happens, maybe. But nothing really crazy enough happened for me to justify what's going to happen next year, you know? So it was pretty much fine. The price of the event, it's fine. 3-day event, $275 for like an early access thing. I don't think I spent that. I got early bird, so I think I spent even less than that for the weekend. That's pretty solid for a full weekend, especially getting early access for VIP. I think that's worth it. I don't think the Friday cost for solo day was worth it. And then also something to know, I don't know if they just started letting people in at 9:30, but what kept happening was that I would be in at 9-ish, and then a bunch of people would flood in at 9:30. I think the single days got in 30 minutes early. I think that would make a lot of sense. Couldn't see any information leading to that, but that's what seemed to happen. Have you ever been to LA Comic-Con? Have you been to any Comic-Cons? Do you think that I'm incorrect about LA Comic-Con? Do you also think that it's having an identity crisis? What do you think they could do to kind of make it more of like an event in the pop culture social calendar, like San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con? Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I have a podcast, a social shenanigans podcast. Reminder that Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. Reminder, I have merch. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd also like more Patreon, that was down below. Reminder, I am now streaming on Twitch. If you'd like to follow me on my social media, that'll be all up here. And that's going to be Have a Lovely Day. Goodbye. Boop. Certain things I can understand being a little messy. However, when you're part of a conglomerate like Comic-Con, like when I tell people that I review events, without fail, they go, oh, like Comic-Con. Like to be a part of the pop culture lexicon like that, and then to have an event that's incredibly mid seems like such a massive misstep. Abby, Adira, Amy, Andrew, Angel, Aslan, Cameron, Corey, Donnie, Elliot, Glenn, Goth, Jasmine, Kenny, Lauren, Literal, Madeline, Mae West, Medic, Micah, Michael, Nathan, Palace, Pink, QWERTY, Rachel, Randy, Robert, Rosie, Ryan, Sam, Skylar, Tasha, Tenzin, Thomas, Heavenly, Victor, Winter, Zwink.